Prologue.
We are not the forgotten. We are the root, the blade, and the fire beneath the earth.
Blessed Burrow Keeper, Merris Brightpaw. Long before caravans carved paths through the tunnels of the Burrowlands, and long before the name Merrifer meant more than a hollow hill, there was a flame in the dark, and her name was Merris Brightpaw. She was born beneath the Elderroot Grove during the year of empty stores, when mushroom harvests withered black on their stems and even honeyed root wine turned bitter on the tongue. Her fur gleamed white-silver in the dim burrow light, her eyes the deep blue of winter sapphires. The midwife who delivered her claimed the child emerged clutching a fallen elderroot seed, though none could say how such a thing found its way into the birthing chamber. From her first words, Merris asked questions that made the Warren's elders shift uncontrollably in their carved stone chairs. At 7 winters old, she cornered Elder Brambleclaw after evening prayers, silver eyes gleaming in the lamplight.
If we're meant to stay hidden,
She pressed.
why did the old songs speak of Dimplekin who walked in sunlight?
Brambleclaw's oversized ears pressed flat, making his head seem smaller. He gathered his robes and hurried toward the tunnel mouth, muttering prayers under his breath. Behind him, Merris called out with the relentlessly curiosity of youth.
Elder, why do our maps show tunnels that lead upward if the surface world brings only death?
Her questions echoed in the stone passages long after the elder disappeared. The Burrowfolk had long lived in caution, hidden, burrowed, and beneath notice. But the darkness beneath the world had noticed them. What followed became known as the Plague War, a slow, festering conflict waged in silence and shadows. The Skul'Vren, creatures of pestilence and malice, whispered their way through forgotten tunnels, spreading disease and terror. But they had not always been so. Once, they were like the Burrowfolk, harmless ratkin neighbors, friends who lived in surface warrens and deep-rooted kinships, until something ancient took hold. A sickness, a darkness. It twisted their minds, blackened their hearts, and turned their bodies into vessels of decay. Where once they shared bread and stories, now they brought ruin. One warren at a time, they struck, leaving rot in their wake. The warren leadership called them myth. Merris called them what they were, at war. When the first tunnels fell, Merris was there, not to flee, but to fight. Her blade, Burrowfang, an heirloom of old Skul'Vren make, was not gifted, but claimed, taken from the cold grip of a fallen defender. She trained with outlaws, veterans, even monsters who remembered the old wars, and when the time came, she stood. At Grand Burrow Ridge, beneath the sky bruised with ash, Merris Brightpaw led a scattered host of Lapari scouts, Skul'Vren burrow guards, and Dimplekin shadowblades. They stood against the twisted, rat-like creatures of sinew and shadow, horrors born from the deepest depths, bristling with disease-ridden fur and eyes like dying coals. Their wiry frames, once scuttling through the tunnels with eerie silence, now lay motionless upon the field, their reign of terror broken. The good Burrowfolk were outnumbered, outmatched, and nearly overrun. But they held. Exhaustion clawed at her limbs, but Merris did not falter. Her stance was steady, her blade still wet with Skul'Vren blood. Each breath was defiance, each scar a vow her people would not fall. For 3 days and nights, they fought. On the third day, Merris descended into the deepest reaches of the burrows, where the Skul'Vren leader awaited. He was called Vermak the Plaguesworn, a grotesque rat, his body swollen with disease, fangs dripping with venomous saliva, and skin pulsing with unnatural boils. There, in the dark, Merris led the charge. She met Vermak in single combat beneath the ancient stone vaults of Hollow Deep. His warhammer struck with earth-shattering force, once slamming her into a wall with a sound like cracking bone. But she rose again, bloodied but unbroken, bloodied but burning, and with a cry that carried through root and stone, she charged, her final strike swift as judgment. Burrowfang sang through the dark. Vermac's head fell to the stone. With his fall, the corruption that had spread through the roots of the Burrowlands seemed to recoil, retreating like mist before the dawn. The surviving Skul'Vren, their will broken, fled into the darkest depths, never to be seen again. She called down the names of every warren that had fallen, and when the morning came at last, she stood alone among the corpses. Her voice, hoarse and raw, rang like an oath across the bloodied hill.
This day, we stand as one.
The words carried across the weary faces of Lopari, Quiverin, and Dimplekin alike, turned toward their leader with reverence.
No longer scattered, no longer divided. The Skul'Vren came to break us, to pull us into the depths and feast upon our bones. But we did not yield. We did not cower. We did not burrow into the earth and pray for the storm to pass.
A chant rose from the gathered throng, a name carried upon the wind. Brightpaw! 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 When she returned from the depths, Merris lifted her sword, its silver edge glinting in the morning light.
Today we are united. The Burrowlands are not just tunnels and trade routes, they are our home. And as long as we stand together, no force, no shadow, no creeping horror will ever be able to take that from us.
She lowered her sword and turned to the Council of Elders, who stood among the people, their aged faces awash with pride and newfound determination. Grand Arbiter Bridlethorn, his whiskers twitching with emotion, stepped forward.
The root blessed Brightpaw,
He declared, his voice trembling with reverence.
Let the Burrowlands forever remember this day. Let your name be etched into stone, and your deeds sung by every generation to come.
Her legacy became the spine of the Burrowlands. Those who shaped its future, its coin-bearers, lawmakers, and protectors, would quietly trace their lineage or inspiration back to her flame. Under her teachings, the Warrens united, trade flourished, peace endured. Her sayings became law, her strategy studied, her resolve mirrored in those who would rise generations later with sharp minds and sharper convictions. Her likeness was carved in stone, her blade, Burrowfang, enshrined in the sanctum of the hollow sun, a vast underground chamber bathed in filtered golden light, where her statue stands vigil above a pedestal of polished obsidian, and the walls whisper the names of those who fell beside her. Each year, on the day of the Ember Veil, Burrowfolk from every warren make a pilgrimage to the sanctum. They bring offerings of root flowers and carved stones and speak the names of their ancestors aloud in a candlelit procession. It is said that those who kneel beneath her statue may glimpse visions of buried courage, and in the stillness, hear her whisper among the stone and shadow. Years flowed by, seasons came and went like whispers in the tunnels. Heroes rose and were buried in root and stone. But the story of Brightpaw endured, woven into lullabies and carved into hearthstones, whispered in prayer and shouted in battle. And now, in the quiet hours before a new storm, the name stirs again. For the deep dark stirs again, as it did in the days of plague and flame. Something old, something forgotten. Over 15 centuries have passed since Brightpaw's stand, and now, as shadows lengthen once more, a descendant of trade and legacy, one who bears the name Merrifer, walks unknowingly toward the fire Brightpaw once lit. And this time, the blade will not rise alone.